They told you love was the most beautiful thing a man could experience, that to open your heart to a woman was to taste the very sweetness of life itself. And they were right until the moment came when that same woman, the one you trusted with your heart, the one you gave your time, your energy, your protection, and your loyalty to, turned around and left you standing in the ashes of what you thought was love. Maybe it was betrayal. Maybe it was cold indifference. Maybe it was an insult so sharp it cut into your very sense of worth. But whatever it was, it left you feeling like the ground beneath your feet had been stolen, like the man you thought you were had been quietly dismantled in the shadows. And here you are, holding your pain, trying to understand what to do with it. The world will tell you to respond in anger, to get revenge, to make her regret it. Your friends might tell you to find another woman quickly, to prove to yourself and everyone else that you're still desirable. Your emotions might whisper in your ear at night, telling you to call her, to beg for answers, to fight for something that is already gone. But the Stoics, the men who faced betrayal, humiliation, and loss on scales most of us will never know, would tell you something different. They would tell you that no matter what she did, no matter how deeply she hurt you, your first duty is to yourself, to your mind, to your dignity, to your reason. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor who carried the weight of an empire while enduring political betrayal and personal loss, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." These are not empty words written in comfort. They are the survival strategy of a man who understood that no betrayal can touch the core of who you are unless you allow it in. And so, the first lesson in handling a woman who hurts you is not to react outwardly, but to reclaim your own mind from the chaos of emotion. You do not rush to punish. You do not rush to explain. You do not even rush to understand her reasons. You stand still in the storm. You breathe. You allow the initial wave of pain to crash over you without letting it drag you into the depths. This is not weakness. This is not passivity. This is the strength of the man who knows that his masculinity is not defined by control over others, but by mastery of himself. When Epictetus was once insulted, he did not argue back, nor did he let the insult fester in his mind. He said simply, "You do not know the rest of me." The meaning is clear. No one's opinion, no one's betrayal, no one's cruelty can touch the totality of who you are unless you open the door and let them in. A woman's hurtful actions may wound your feelings, but they cannot reach the deepest parts of your soul unless you surrender them willingly. And yet most men do surrender them. They give away their peace in exchange for answers they will never truly get. They hand over their dignity in the form of pleading texts, desperate calls, and emotional breakdowns. They turn a moment of pain into a lifelong wound because they do not know how to let go without hatred, how to walk away without the fire of revenge burning in their chest. But the Stoic man knows that hatred is just another chain, and that walking away with peace is a greater victory than any act of vengeance could ever give. When a woman hurts you, whether by leaving, lying, cheating, disrespecting, or withdrawing her affection, she has given you something most men don't recognize: an opportunity. Not an opportunity to win her back, but an opportunity to strip away every illusion you had about yourself and rebuild on the foundation of truth. You thought you needed her to feel strong. Now you see that your strength must come from within. You thought love was about holding on. Now you see that love is also about knowing when to let go. You thought your value was something she gave you with her approval. Now you see that your value was there long before she entered your life, and it will remain long after she is gone. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." When you replay the hurt in your mind, when you analyze her words, her actions, her expressions, when you try to decode the why of what she did, you are not suffering from her anymore. You are suffering from yourself. The moment she hurt you was the reality. Every moment after that in which you continue to dwell on it is your imagination torturing you. The Stoic man learns to end the suffering at the point of reality. He does not feed the fire by revisiting it in his mind. To handle a woman who hurts you, you must learn the art of stillness. This does not mean you feel nothing. It means you choose not to be ruled by what you feel. It means you acknowledge the hurt without letting it command your actions. It means you keep your frame. A man's frame, his grounded presence, his calm control over himself, is not for show. It is not a performance for women to admire. It is the anchor that keeps him from being tossed around by the storms of life. Without it, he becomes a slave to his emotions, a leaf in the wind of someone else's choices. And here is where the truth becomes uncomfortable. She may never apologize. She may never explain. She may never even acknowledge what she did to you. And you must be okay with that. You must be okay with walking away from the table without having eaten the meal you were promised. You must be okay with the silence that follows betrayal. Because the moment you demand closure from the person who hurt you, you put your peace in her hands again. And she has already shown you that she cannot be trusted to protect it. You will be tempted to fight for her attention again, to prove your worth, to show her that she made a mistake in hurting you. This temptation will whisper to you late at night, when the world is quiet and your mind begins to wander back to her. It will appear in the form of imagined conversations where she suddenly understands the damage she caused, apologizes, and begs to come back. But understand this, that is your ego speaking, not your reason. Your ego craves validation. Your reason craves truth. And truth, in this case, is that you must live without her validation. This is where Stoicism demands discipline. A man who cannot sit in his own company without needing someone else to fill the silence will forever be at the mercy of others. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." And in this context, it means you must be willing to let her and maybe others believe lies about you, to misinterpret your stillness as weakness, to think that your lack of retaliation means you didn't care. Let them believe what they wish. A king does not leave his throne to argue with peasants about the rumors in the marketplace. In the days following the hurt, your emotions will try to pull you toward action, toward calling her, toward defending yourself, toward making a scene. But each action taken in emotional chaos is a piece of your dignity handed away. The Stoics practiced premeditatio malorum, the rehearsal of misfortunes, so that when pain came, they would recognize it as an expected visitor rather than an ambush. If you had understood this fully before, perhaps her betrayal would not feel so shocking. But you can begin now. You can use this wound as the starting point for a new way of seeing the world. One where you expect the possibility of loss, betrayal, or disappointment, and yet do not become bitter when it arrives. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. None of them can hurt me." Imagine starting each day knowing that someone, somewhere, might fail you, and yet still moving through the day with grace, because you have already decided their failure will not drag you into the mud with them. Handling a woman who hurts you is not about controlling her, it is about mastering yourself. And mastery begins with awareness. The first awareness is this: her actions are a reflection of her character, not your worth. You may have made mistakes, you may have been imperfect, but the choice to harm you was hers alone. If you blame yourself entirely, you take responsibility for something that was never yours to control. If you blame her entirely, you risk living as a victim. The Stoic man sees clearly. She acted according to her nature, and you are free to act according to yours. Your nature, if you cultivate it through discipline, reason, and virtue, will be to rise above the pettiness of retaliation. Seneca said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. When someone wrongs you, your mind will present you with dozens of ways to hurt them back. But if you act on those thoughts, you lower yourself to the same moral ground as the one who hurt you. And worse, you make your happiness dependent on their suffering, which is just another form of dependence. True power is to be able to walk away without wishing them harm, to feel the wound but refuse to let it turn into poison. There will be those who tell you this is weakness, that a real man should teach her a lesson. But understand, a man who is truly grounded does not need to teach anyone through revenge. His absence is the lesson. His silence is the lesson. His refusal to be dragged into emotional chaos is the lesson. She will notice it eventually, whether she admits it or not. The moment she realizes she cannot provoke you into chasing her, explaining yourself, or breaking your own dignity, she will feel the weight of what she lost. But by then, you will not be doing it for her, you will be doing it for yourself. In history, there are countless examples of leaders and warriors who responded to betrayal with calm rather than rage. One story tells of Cato the Younger, a Roman statesman known for his unshakable principles. When an ally turned against him politically, seeking to destroy his reputation. Cato did not retaliate with lies or personal attacks. Instead, he continued to live his life according to his values, speaking truth where it needed to be spoken, and refusing to let his enemy's malice change his own conduct. Eventually, the contrast between Cato's integrity and his enemy's deceit became so obvious that public opinion shifted in his favor without him having to lift a finger in revenge. This is the Stoic way to win, not by fighting dirt with dirt, but by making your virtue so visible that it outshines the darkness thrown at you. When a woman hurts you, it is tempting to think the pain will last forever. But remember, time is not the healer you are. Time only gives you space to choose what to do with the wound. You can nurse it, feed it, replay it endlessly, or you can let it teach you something you will carry for the rest of your life. The lesson is this: your peace is yours alone to guard, and your masculinity is not measured by how loudly you roar when you are wronged, but by how steadily you stand when the storm tries to pull you down. There comes a moment, after the initial shock has faded, when you realize the pain has become a companion. It sits with you in the morning. It follows you on your walks. It lingers in the quiet moments when your mind is not busy. This is the most dangerous stage, because here the wound can either harden into bitterness or sharpen into wisdom. The Stoic chooses the latter. He understands that pain is raw material, useless if left unshaped, but powerful if forged into something greater. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Your hurt is not an obstacle. It is the path. The betrayal, the disrespect, the heartbreak, these are not interruptions to your life. They are invitations to master it. They strip away illusions, exposing the truth about the woman, about yourself, about what you have been relying on for your sense of worth. You may not like what you see, but clarity is the foundation of power. Think of the blacksmith. The sword is not born from comfort. It is born from heat, from relentless hammering, from the violence of shaping metal into something that can withstand battle. That is what this moment is for you. The woman who hurt you has handed you the fire and the hammer. Now you decide whether you will melt into nothing or be forged into steel. In practice, this means discipline. When the mind wants to spiral into self-pity, you stand up and do something physical. Train your body, clean your environment, move. The Stoics believed that the body and mind are not separate in their influence. Strengthening one strengthens the other. When you feel powerless emotionally, regaining control over your body reminds you that you still hold command over something. This is why a man who has been hurt often finds peace in lifting weights, in running long distances, in martial arts. Every rep, every mile, every punch is a reminder you can endure. But the transformation is not only physical. You must also feed the mind. Read the works of men who have endured worse and risen higher. Epictetus was born a slave and walked with a permanent limp from a broken leg inflicted by his master. Yet he taught freedom more profoundly than men who had never been in chains. Seneca faced exile, the threat of execution, and the betrayal of political allies, yet he wrote letters filled with calm reasoning and practical wisdom. Their words become your allies when your emotions try to turn you into your own enemy. Modern examples exist too. Consider the athlete who is publicly humiliated when his partner's betrayal becomes tabloid gossip. The world expects him to break, to lash out, to fall apart. Instead, he returns to training with relentless focus, breaking records the following season. He doesn't need to post cryptic messages online, doesn't need to tell the world he's over it. His actions speak for him. This is the masculine response. Less noise, more results. The Stoics were not emotionless. They felt pain deeply, but they refused to give pain the final word. You must do the same. Your pain will try to convince you that you have lost something irreplaceable. But think carefully. What exactly have you lost? A woman who chose to harm you? A version of the relationship that only existed in your mind? Or have you lost the illusion that love alone could protect you from life's hardships? If the last is true, then the loss is actually a gift, because illusions, no matter how sweet, always rot when exposed to reality. In those moments when the hurt flares up again, and it will remind yourself of the Stoic truth, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Your reaction is the real battlefield. Lose control there, and you lose everything. Maintain control there, and you have already won, regardless of whether she understands it, regrets it, or even notices. And let us be clear. Maintaining control does not mean becoming cold to all women, closing your heart forever, or building walls so high no one can reach you. That is not Stoicism. That is fear disguised as strength. The goal is not to stop feeling, but to stop being ruled by feelings. The goal is to love when it is wise, to trust when it is earned, and to walk away without looking back when it is broken. When you live this way, the next time someone tries to hurt you, you will not collapse. You will not beg. You will not lose weeks of your life spiraling into confusion and resentment. You will see clearly, act decisively, and move forward with your dignity intact. And that, in the end, is the greatest revenge. To live so well that those who tried to break you must watch you rise. The hardest part is not surviving the hurt, it's releasing it without letting it corrode your soul. Most men, even if they manage to stay composed outwardly, carry a quiet grudge inside, an ember of bitterness they feed in secret. It becomes a shadow that follows them into new relationships, into friendships, into how they view women as a whole. And yet, the Stoics saw this as the greatest loss of all, because to keep that ember alive is to remain chained to the very person you wish to be free from. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best way to avenge yourself is not to become like the wrongdoer." This is not poetic softness, it is strategy. Hatred is a form of imitation. To hate someone is to keep them alive in your mind, to keep their actions dictating your emotional state long after they are gone. Forgiveness, in the Stoic sense, is not about excusing what was done. It's about refusing to give your enemy free rent in your heart. It's about taking the energy that could be spent in resentment and using it to build something greater. This is where amor fati comes in the love of fate. It is the radical acceptance that whatever happens, no matter how painful, is part of the path you were meant to walk. Not simply tolerating it, not reluctantly enduring it, but embracing it as necessary. Imagine the weight that falls off your shoulders when you no longer label the betrayal as a detour from your life, but as an essential step in it. The moment you decide, this, too, is for me, not against me, you begin to reclaim every ounce of power you thought you lost. Consider the story of Admiral James Stockdale, a modern Stoic who spent 7 years as a prisoner of war in Vietnam. He was beaten, tortured, and isolated, yet he credited the Stoic philosophy, especially Epictetus, for his survival. When asked later how he endured, he explained that he accepted the reality of his situation completely, without bitterness. He did not waste time wishing for a different fate. He focused instead on how to live with honor within it. The betrayal of trust in your personal life may not compare to a prison camp, but the principle is the same. Accept what is, control what you can, let go of the rest. In letting go, you must also let go of the need for her to acknowledge your worth. This is the quiet trap many men fall into. They tell themselves they are moving on, yet deep down they hope for the day she reaches out, apologizes, or admits she was wrong. That hope is just another chain. The moment your peace depends on her recognition is the moment you hand her power again. The Stoic cuts the chain entirely. No revenge, no hope for reconciliation, no hunger for closure, only forward. This doesn't mean you erase her from your memory or pretend the hurt never happened. Stoicism is not denial. You remember, but you remember without venom. You can speak of it without your voice tightening, without your chest burning. The memory becomes like an old scar, visible, but no longer painful. And that scar serves a purpose. It reminds you of what you have endured, of the strength you found when you could have broken, of the wisdom you now carry. Seneca wrote, "He who is brave is free." And there is a particular kind of bravery in releasing someone who hurt you without demanding payment for the pain they caused. That bravery frees you not only from them, but from the man you were before the man who believed his happiness was in someone else's hands. When you practice amor fati, even betrayal becomes a strange kind of gift. You begin to see that the world is not here to keep you comfortable, it is here to grow you, and growth rarely comes without pain. The woman who hurt you has played her role in your development, even if she didn't mean to. You can hate her for that, or you can thank fate for sending you the lesson earlier rather than later. One path leaves you heavy, the other sets you free. And freedom, above all else, is what a man must protect. A man can lose his wealth, his reputation, his relationships, but if he still owns his mind, his choices, and his inner peace, he remains untouchable. This is what the Stoics understood. This is what you must understand. You are not defined by what you have lost. You are defined by what you do with what remains. There is a moment in every man's life when he looks at himself in the mirror and realizes he has been living as a shadow of who he could be. Often, this moment comes after pain, after betrayal, after loss, after a woman's actions have left him stripped of comfort and certainty. At first, this reflection is uncomfortable. You see the fatigue in your eyes, the weight you've been carrying in your posture, the quiet resignation in the way you move. But the Stoic man doesn't turn away from this image. He studies it. He says to himself, "This is where I am. Now, where will I go?" Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." That is the call to action. You can talk endlessly about how you've been wronged, about how women should behave, about what's wrong with the world. Or you can stop talking and start building. Rebuilding after a woman has hurt you is not about proving her wrong. It's about proving yourself right, proving that you are capable of becoming the man you were meant to be, regardless of who stays or who leaves. The process begins with the physical, not because muscles make you a man, but because discipline does. Every workout is an act of defiance against the part of you that wants to stay in bed and drown in self-pity. Every mile run, every rep lifted, every bead of sweat is a reminder that you are capable of more than your feelings want you to believe. The body becomes the training ground for the mind. If you can push through physical discomfort, you can push through emotional discomfort. But physical strength without mental clarity is just brute force. You must also rebuild the mind. The Stoics journaled daily, not as a form of diary writing, but as a weapon of self-examination. Marcus Aurelius's Meditations was never meant to be published. It was a private dialogue with himself, a way to keep his values sharp amidst the chaos of ruling an empire. You must do the same. Each day, write not about her, not about the hurt, but about yourself. What did you do well today? Where did you lose your temper? Did you live according to your values, or did you compromise them? Over time, you will see patterns, both the weaknesses you must address and the strengths you must guard. Rebuilding also requires new challenges. When a woman has hurt you, your world often feels smaller, as if everything revolves around the loss. The cure for this is expansion. Learn a new skill. Start a project you've been delaying. Travel somewhere unfamiliar. Meet people who know nothing of your story. The more you engage with life, the more you realize that your pain, while real, is not the whole story. The horizon is still wide, and it is still yours to explore. This is also the time to refine your philosophy of relationships. The Stoic does not avoid love, but he enters it with clear eyes. He knows that people are capable of both great loyalty and great betrayal, and he accepts both as possibilities. He does not demand perfection, but he does demand alignment with his values. He does not chase affection at the cost of self-respect. And he never, no matter how deep the connection feels, builds his entire identity around another person. Seneca warned against placing your happiness in anything you cannot control. This does not mean withdrawing from the world. It means holding everything wealth, status, relationships with an open hand. If it stays, you are grateful. If it leaves, you remain whole. When you rebuild yourself after hurt, you must rebuild in such a way that no single loss can collapse the structure again. That is true security. Over time, you will notice something change. The pain that once consumed your thoughts will begin to fade. You will laugh without forcing it. You will sleep through the night without replaying old conversations. You will encounter reminders of her, a song, a place, a scent, and feel nothing more than a passing acknowledgement. This is not because you have forgotten, but because you have healed. The wound has closed, and in its place is a man who is stronger, calmer, and more grounded than before. And here's the quiet irony. The woman who hurt you may one day see this transformation. She may wonder if she made a mistake. She may even reach out. But by then, you will not be building for her approval. You will not be living for the possibility of her return. You will be living because you have learned that the most important relationship you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. And that relationship, once strong, makes you unshakable. Sometimes, the hardest part isn't letting go of her. It's letting go of the version of yourself that existed with her. The man who laughed in a certain way because she was there. The man who walked a little taller because she admired him. The man who softened because she was near. You grieve him as much as you grieve her. And here is where many men falter. They think the way to heal is to get her back, so they can get him back. But that man is gone, not because she left, but because life has moved forward. The man you must become now is not the man you were with her. He is different. He is wiser. He is forged in fire. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." If your sense of life, joy, and strength was tied entirely to her presence, then her departure is not the real tragedy. The real tragedy would be if you never learned to live fully without her. This is why Stoicism insists that you anchor your happiness in your own reason, virtue, and self-command, not in the unpredictable tides of another's heart. I will not lie to you, this transformation is not clean or painless. It is not a matter of flipping a mental switch and suddenly feeling nothing. No. There will be nights when you replay her words over and over, as if by examining them enough times you could rewrite the ending. There will be mornings when you wake with a weight on your chest, a fog in your mind, and the dull ache of something unfinished. And it is in those moments that Stoic practice becomes more than philosophy. It becomes survival. You remind yourself, this is not the end of me. This is the sharpening of me. You remind yourself that you are not just a man who feels. You are a man who chooses how to respond to what he feels. If she betrayed you, you do not betray yourself by becoming bitter, petty, or cruel. If she abandoned you, you do not abandon your own principles in an effort to hurt her back. You carry your pain as a warrior carries his shield not to hide behind it, but to move forward with dignity. History is full of men who lost women, kingdoms, fortunes, and still became greater for it. Think of Marcus Aurelius himself, who endured the death of children, political betrayal, and the decay of the empire's borders, yet every night he sat down and wrote words of calm, reason, and perspective. He did not write as a man who had been spared pain. He wrote as a man who had survived it without becoming its slave. That is your task. The woman who hurt you may or may not think about what she's done. That's irrelevant. You are not shaping your life in response to her thoughts. You are shaping it in response to your own standards. And your standard as a Stoic man is this: never let the behavior of another drag you beneath the level of your own character. So here you stand, not broken, but tempered. Not defeated, but refined. The pain she caused was real, yes, but your response has been greater.